We have yet another example of a Republican committing voter fraud. This time it happened in Iowa, where the wife of a northwestern Iowa County supervisor was convicted on Tuesday of ballot stuffing. This scheme to help her husband win the Republican nomination to run for former Representative Steve King's seat in 2020. So now the Sioux City Journal reports that jurors deliberated for about 6 hours before finding Kim Taylor guilty of 26 counts of providing false information in registering and voting, 3 counts of fraudulent registration, and 23 counts of fraudulent voting. So that's a lot of counts. Now, prosecutors said that Taylor, a Vietnam native, approached numerous voters of Vietnamese heritage with limited English comprehension and filled out and signed election forms and ballots on behalf of them and their English-speaking children. They said the scheme was designed to help her husband, Jeremy Taylor, a former Iowa House member, who finished a distant third in the race for the Republican nomination to run for Iowa's 4th District congressional seat, which used to belong to racist Representative Steve King. So even with the fraud, the guy gets 8% of the vote. Embarrassing. Sad baby. Now, Jeremy Taylor has not been charged in this scheme, but has been named as an unindicted co-conspirator, and the case remains under investigation. So did she do it on, his order, on his suggestion? Did he have anything to do with this? Like, hey, why don't you get some support for my campaign with your Vietnamese friends? I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. Now, Taylor faces up to 5 years in prison on each charge. She's not been sentenced yet. Now, Woodbury County election officials had become aware of this voter fraud in September of 2020 when 2 Iowa State University students from Sioux City had requested their absentee ballots, only to learn that their ballots had already been cast in their name. They were allowed to withdraw those ballots, cast their own, but Woodbury County Auditor Pat Gill, who's also an election commissioner, kept these fraudulent ballots. And when processing absentee ballots on election night, election workers notified Gill that the handwriting on a number of them appeared to be similar to the ballots that he had kept from those students, the fraudulent ballots. So a little bit of quick detective work here, and they were like, this seems real strange. There seems to be some very similar handwriting here. Now, the thing that makes this just, chef's kiss, right? is how easily attempts at voter fraud are caught. It really does help make me sleep better at night, okay? The people that do voter fraud are not very smart. And they generally tend to be Republicans. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. That's the reason that it's so rare, by the way, is that, look, you're going to get caught because it's so easy to get caught. You're not exactly using sophisticated methods here. They're going to figure it out. There are redundancies built into our electoral system to prevent and discourage fraud and to find out when it happens. That's why election conspiracy theorists make me roll my eyes all the time. They always think it's so easy to get away with voter fraud, and yet they're always caught. It's ridiculous. Assistant U.S. Attorney Richard Evans, who helped prosecute Taylor's case, noted that most voter fraud cases involve one voter casting a single ballot in another person's name. And added, despite what's in the media, voter fraud is extremely rare. To have someone vote dozens of times for several people, that is rare. That is rare. Like a rarity of a rarity. And of course, you do that, you're going to get caught. And look, it's usually situations like this, right? Where you have a family member trying to get into politics, trying to get into office, that, and takes advantage of a community, or takes advantage of a dead relative, or something like that. This is how it happens. It's not mules. It's not undocumented immigrants getting bussed into polling places by the Democratic Party, or Chinese hackers getting into the machines and flipping a bunch of votes. No, that's not what happens. It's situations like this, or again, the Trump supporter in the villages that are casting a ballot in their dead mom's name. That's what's happening, and again, they get caught. U.S. Attorney Timothy Duax said in a statement to local outlet KCAU on this case, said, "The right to vote is one of our most important constitutional rights. Ms. Taylor deprived citizens of their right to vote in order to benefit her husband's campaign. The guilty verdict is an example of how the justice system works to protect the voting rights of citizens and ensure fair and honest elections." Again, this is where the voter fraud happens. This is how it happens. And it makes me feel really good to have a system that is able to find this, crack down on it. Because, again, we all want our votes to be counted. We don't want people stuffing ballots and stealing votes. And I can guarantee you, from all the reporting that I've done on election fraud, on voter fraud, and how, incredibly rare it is and who's actually doing it, again, I feel very, very secure in our elections.